This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. The Quarantine Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez as we continue to talk about what's happening in Minnesota. Now to the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin on trial for murdering George Floyd. The trial is taking place 10 miles from where a white police officer killed Daunte Wright, a 20-year-old black man, Sunday. On Monday, a cardiologist called as an expert witness in the Chauvin trial by the prosecution testified George Floyd died due to oxygen deprivation after Chauvin kneeled on his neck for over 9 minutes. George Floyd's brother, Philonis, also testified and talked about how close George was to his mother, who died in 2018.
And when we went to the funeral, it's just, George just sat there at the casket over and over again. He would just say, "Mama, Mama," over and over again. And I didn't know what to tell him because I was in pain too. We all were hurting. And he was just kissing her and just kissing her. He didn't want to leave the casket. And everybody was like, come on, it's gonna be okay. But it was just difficult because I don't know who can take that when you watch your mother, somebody who loved and cherished you and nourished you for your entire life, and then they have to leave you. We all have to go through it, but it's difficult. And George, he was just in pain the entire time.
Sir, you indicated your mother passed away May 30, that was 2018, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is that a picture of your mother and George when he was younger?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to offer Exhibit 284.
284 is received.
Permission to publish. Sir, would you please describe this photo and what you know about it?
That's my mother. She's no longer with us right now, but that's my oldest brother, George. I miss both of them. I was married. In May 24th, I got married. And my brother was killed May 25th. And my mom died on May 30th. So it's like a bittersweet month because I'm supposed to be happy when that month comes.
George Floyd's brother Philonis testifying Monday. Derek Chauvin's defense is due to call its first witnesses today. To talk more about the trial of Derek Chauvin, we're staying with Nekima Levy Armstrong, the Minneapolis-based civil rights attorney, activist, executive director of Wayfinder Foundation, former president of the Minneapolis NAACP. Can you talk about the wrapping up of the prosecution? Once again, one officer after another, the leaders in the Minneapolis Police Department, and then experts saying that it was not a heart attack, it was not drugs, it was the cutting off of the oxygen supply by Chauvin's knee, the significance of this, and also the significance of the defense asking to sequester the jury, given what happened with the murder of another African-American man down the road. But of course, the judge said no.
Well, prosecutors finished their case as strongly as they started in terms of humanizing George Floyd, putting on extremely emotional testimony from the bystanders early on, as well as from George Floyd's brother, who provided what's called spark of life testimony in the state of Minnesota. One of the things that I think is important as a result of the testimony of George Floyd's brother is the fact that his testimony paints a picture for the jury of what George Floyd's life meant to the family and to the community and how his death has impacted them. I also think that the state did a really good job of providing expert witness testimony in the form of medical evidence, as well as use of force testimony, and also helping to break what some may call that blue wall of silence by having so many police officers testify in the prosecution's case against George Floyd. We know that through one trial, that blue wall of silence is not going to crumble, but it is a start. And Chief Arredondo has been able to set the tone for the department in terms of his expectations and sending a signal to officers that they will not be allowed to get away with this kind of behavior. Now, on the flip side, there are folks who feel that the only reason that these officers have testified is because the world is watching. And I believe that there is a lot of truth to that, because some of the underlying issues within the Minneapolis Police Department, as far as the culture, have not yet changed. Now, in terms of yesterday's motion hearings, we heard from defense counsel Eric Nelson that the unrest that happened on Sunday night would have an impact on the jury, so he was recommending that the jury be sequestered. Judge Cahill made the best decision in refusing to sequester the jury and articulating that these are two separate incidences. What happened in Brooklyn Center as a result of the killing of Dante Wright at the hands of the police is not the same as what is happening in the trial of Derek Chauvin and the killing of George Floyd.
And Nekima, I wanted to ask you, in terms of the decision by Governor Tim Walz to issue a curfew for several counties in the Twin Cities area from 7 p.m. until 6 a.m. Tuesday, and given the fact that we're dealing with, this is the beginning of Ramadan, your thoughts about these restrictions?
I think that the restrictions are ridiculous from my perspective, as someone who has been out on the front lines. I've been out both nights, along with Jaylani Hussein and many other activists and organizers. It is really upsetting that the governor would issue a curfew rather than working proactively to curb police violence and set the tone by using his bully pulpit, pushing for policy changes, and really advocating for the rights of Black people and other people of color who've been abused by police. Instead, what we're seeing is the governor push for more funding for law enforcement, bring in the National Guard, help to set up barricades and chain link fencing around the courthouse and other buildings throughout the Twin Cities. And now this additional curfew. Many young people last night intentionally violated the curfew because they're sending a signal that they are fed up with police violence in the state of Minnesota and not feeling safe as young Black people out in the community.